Namaste yogis, welcome back. For today's full-length vinyasa practice, we'll be looking at to review and feel into the 5 koshas, or the 5 sheaths or layers of your being. And as we've learned, those expand way far out above and beyond just the physical form. So I hope you enjoy. In order to move through today's practice, you're definitely going to need a strap. If you don't have a strap at home, a necktie or a long sock or even a pillowcase can work. For the same purpose, 2 blocks are always great to have as extensions for your arms, or sometimes they can add a little bit of weight to particular postures for a little bit more of a challenge if you like that as well. Definitely a blanket if you know you like to cushion your joints, and possibly a pillow or bolster if you have that at your home. Otherwise, a blanket can also substitute your bolster. Bolster or blanket is great to elevate your hips up above your knees for seated parts of the practice, like at the very start. That will be comfortable for you to have as we move through a body scan, and at the very end for meditation and pranayama. So if you need a moment, you can pause the video and find the equipment that you need to move through the practice, and then once you have that, go ahead and come back and join us for today's vinyasa. Okay, so let's begin. We'll start in an easy seat, Sukhasana, so you can crisscross your ankles or place one ankle in front of the other. As I mentioned, great to elevate your hips just slightly above your knees. Take a nice tall seat. If you feel safe in the space you're in, allow the windows of your eyes to fade down without force or strain. And before bypassing right through or over the physical form and going right to, mental states or focusing on your breath, what I'd really like to invite everybody to do at this exact moment is to tap into Annamaya kosha, or your physical layer, your food body. So begin your grounding and your landing here in today's practice by noticing, for example, the place where your feet, your ankles, your shins make contact with the mat. You might notice the sensation of your mat. Is it softer? Are you like on a towel? Is it more rubbery? Does your physical experience feel like you're kind of hot, or are you in a little bit of a colder space? Notice the sensation of any sort of materials that you have touching your skin, or if there's a breeze or particular smells. So from the Taittiriya Upanishad, this concept of the koshas, the many sheaths, and they're called the sheaths because one kind of fits into the next perfectly, like a sword into a sheath. And we learn that our beings are actually very multifaceted, which is something that we really intuitively know or experience. So we know that in Eastern terms, when we refer to the body, we're really talking about more than just the meat and bones of the system. We can really tap into this particular layer, the Annamaya, the food layer, the food body, through asana practice. This is one of the best ways to tap into that solid, most manifest aspect of your being. Literally moving and heating muscles, bones, joints, circulation, all of your physical form. So for our last moment here, notice any sort of sensation that's arising in this physical screen of you. Anything that feels hot or cold or tense or soft. And if you're not there already, you can start to zoom in on your Ujjayi breath. So let the tip of your tongue rest to the hard palate of your mouth. Guide both inhales and exhales through your nose. And as we add on this other layer of the practice, you can now begin to observe the next layer of you, the Pranamaya kosha. This is the place where you can watch your breath with awareness. So it's undeniably a part of you, and yet also it's different than the physical landmarks, this living, breathing entity that is the movement of your breath. So scan now your energy body, the pranamaya kosh. How does your breath move through you? Does it feel more nourishing and like uplifting? Is it adding something to your experience? Or does it feel more depleting or lightening? Is it taking something away from your experience? There's no right or wrong answer. It's really self-observation, because the breath can be both of those things at any given moment. Take a last few rounds of breath. And then last part of our scan as we begin is to draw your awareness now to your thoughts and emotions. This brings us to the third layer, or mano maya kosh. As I said, this is the last one we'll observe. These three layers of us are where we spend most of our time observing, or where we have the most direct awareness in our human experience. The food body, the physical form, the prana kosh, the breath or energy body, and the manomaya kosh, or the thoughts and emotions. So notice what's coming up for you. Maybe your mind feels very busy. Maybe it feels quite at ease. Again, there's no wrong or right. There's no correct way for your mind, your thoughts, or your emotions to be. There is only observation of what actually is. So notice that now. Notice your sense impressions. If you have your eyes open, what are you taking in from the world around you? Is there any taste in your mouth, or any sounds in your space? Any smells? Maybe you have incense burning or diffuser. And our senses give this layer, this sheath, a lot of information. You know, one smell can bring us into a completely different internal experience. It can drop us into deep and vivid memory, lucid states that are different than the one that we're presently in. So notice all of that may be present. And then go ahead and let your eyes drift open gently. And notice perhaps a little bit more of a vivid experience in the present now, just through that, under 10 minutes of scanning these different layers. As you open your eyes, hopefully you feel a little bit more depth to the awareness of you and your body in the now. So we're going to begin to come into movement, and I'll remind you to observe each of these layers. So you can start to roll your trunk, full, big circles. And of course, if it feels comfortable or appropriate for you, allow the weight of your head to roll as well in the same direction. I always like to offer permission to stop and stretch and pause in any spot that feels particularly nourished by that movement. And then reverse the direction. I'm going to get in some big sweeping movements for the whole length of the spine. So again, add slow movement in the weight of the head to follow if that's appropriate. And then go ahead and come all the way back towards center. If you're still elevated on a blanket or bolster, go ahead and slide it far behind you so you have a little bit more space. And then inhale all 10 fingertips high to the sky. And exhale, spin towards your left. Take your right hand atop your left thigh. So we're going to kind of conjoin. They're always woven together anyway, but we're going to kind of join the Annamaya Kosh with the Pranamaya. So with your inhale, look for a little bit of a lift in your physical form, and then merging with your exhale, see if you can find a little bit more of a spin. We're going to take a nice deep twist to start here. So one more breath. Allow your Pranamaya Kosh, the breath body, to rise, and as that happens, allow your physical form to rise. And then exhale, see if you can spin just a little bit deeper, and allow Annamaya Kosh, that physical part of you, to follow the lead of your breath. And then go ahead and inhale all the way up. Reach all 10 fingers high to the sky, and exhale over to the opposite side. So your left hand now will come atop your right thigh, and same invitation. So guided by your inhale, lift up nice and tall. And then with the power of your exhale, see if you can spin a little bit deeper. You can tent up onto your right fingertips behind you. That might give you a little bit of a leverage to spin deeper. One more round of breath. And go ahead and come all the way back towards center. Reach all 10 fingertips high. Take a fold forward. You can cat paw your hands out, land to palms, to elbows, or all the way down, forehead toward the earth for just a breath. And then walk your hands right back in. Swap the crisscross of your feet, opposite foot to the front or to the top, just to balance that out, and then walk your hands right back out. So remember, you can land to palms, to elbows, or all the way down to the earth, only for a breath or two. And then go ahead and come right back up. All right, so you can roll up and over your feet and ankles, or otherwise sweep them around behind you. Come to rest back towards your heels. And so there's going to be quite a bit of variation in how different yogis take this one. You can either stay resting back onto your sits bones, onto your heels, take your knees a little bit wide. So some bodies are going to feel best taking it here. Or you can take your heels out wide and let your sits bones rest down between your heels. So check out which one's best in your form. And also lots of options for support on this one. So you can elevate your hips on your blocks. You can also take your blocks behind you, right? You can rest your bolster onto your blocks if you need a lot of extra lift, if that's what feels best or more nourishing. Or you can come right down to the earth and head all the way back. Supta Virasana. Land first to your palms. If you're still feeling steady and strong there, you can ease all the way back towards your elbows. And then, of course, if it's available in your practice, you have the option to come all the way down to the earth. If you are landing all the way down in your practice, you have one final option, which is to reach your arms all the way up and back overhead. We're not going to be here too long, so this is not a yin variation of this pose. So it's okay for you to feel an intensity of sensation. And also tap into the Vijnanamaya Kosh. That's the wisdom body that we want to carry with us through the practice, the wisdom of discernment. So you and only you know the difference between an appropriate sensation, even if it's intense, and one that is harmful or injurious, one that is not in alignment with ahimsa. So tune into that. We'll take 3 more breaths. Either propped up on elbows, hands, blocks, or all the way to the earth. Last breath. And then rising up, if you're all the way to the earth, tuck your chin in toward your chest. Press up onto your elbows and forearms first. You can bring your fingertips towards your toes. Slow transition all the way up from your forearms to your palms and back up toward a seat. Really slow-mo to ease out of that compression in the low back that we get with that back bend. And then lean your weight forward. Lean your weight forward, come toward tabletop. You can give the tops of your feet some taps. Maybe tuck your toes under behind you. Take a couple slow pulses back to get a little bit of blood flow back to the feet, to the ankles. And then keep your toes tucked under behind you. Rest all the way back to your heels for a toe squat. I'm going to give you something to distract your mind while we're here so that it will hopefully fly by a little bit faster. So take your left hand down to the earth, reach your right fingertips all the way over toward the opposite edge of your mat. Spin your gaze underneath your right elbow. And then anchor way down toward your right heel, and at the same time expand like your breath, like your inhale, expand. Breathe your way back towards center. Take a pause in the middle. Feel the weight pour back down to the soles of your feet. And then let's come across the opposite side. Land your right palm down. Reach your left fingertips way up high overhead. Spin your gaze under your left elbow this time around. You get this beautiful opportunity in side bends again to really see how physical form and breath body fuse. So inhale to find length. Feel your left lung expand, and then exhale. Maybe you can lean a little bit deeper. Bring it all the way back towards center, and again, pause for just one breath count. And then go ahead and lean your weight forward toward table. Once again, float your right toes out behind you. You can drop your toes down toward the earth and take a quick look back to notice if your right hip is more or less even with your left, and then float your left fingertips out toward the top edge of your mat. You can keep your gaze grounded so your neck spine is really nice and long. Draw your belly button back toward your lumbar spine. So there's going to be like a little bit of a tilt of the pelvis. Make sure the belly fire is engaged, and then land your left palm down. Sweep your right toes all the way across midline off the left edge of your mat. Here we go. Another one to create lots of side body space. So turn your gaze over your left shoulder until you can see your right toes behind you, and then move your big, wide, expansive breaths up the right side of your body. Drag your tummy back toward lumbar spine, float your right toes, draw your knee in towards your forehead, take a rounded back, and then land both knees back to the earth. In between sides, you can take a little bit of cat and cow movement, some full trunk rolls. And draw it on back toward neutral, and then extend your left leg long. Remember, you can keep the toes anchored down toward the earth. Take a quick look back. Check in to see if your left hip is even. Keep the gaze grounded, drishti to the earth. Reach your right fingertips forward. So remember, there's a little bit of a press back of low abdomen to lumbar. Starting to build strength and fire. So remember, this fire not only helps us to kind of cleanse and detoxify in the physical body, but perhaps more importantly, it holds the Agni, the fire, so that we can burn through our veils of ignorance. And that's where our asana practice helps tap us into the Vijnanamaya Kosh, that wisdom layer. Take one more breath. Land your right palm down, float your left toes all the way on across midline, off the opposite edge of your mat. This time, turn your gaze over your right shoulder until you see your left toes behind you. Move your breaths up the left side body. It's like an accordion, really expand Pranamaya and Annamaya Kosh working in unison a lot through the physical practice of yoga through asana. And then go ahead and float your left toes all the way back. Draw your left knee in towards your forehead, round your back, land both knees down. And once again, take a few rounds. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. You practice like you, right? You can move cat-cow, you can move barrel rolls, you can have soft elbows here, really just get into some warmth for the joints. And then as you're ready, go ahead and walk your hands in and all the way up toward your hips. This is a great spot to cushion your knees if you like that with your blanket. Extend your right leg out long. Toes will point up toward the front edge of your mat. So as if heading toward gate latch, which is where we're going. So settle in. Slide your right hand down the outer line of your right leg without landing right on that lateral edge of the knee. So land to your thigh or below to your calf. Reach your left fingertips up and overhead. Spin your gaze, one big full expansive breath. Then lift it all the way back to center. And then take all 10 fingertips high and circle your elbows behind you. Lift your heart up. And exhale your palms together. Anjali Mudra at your heart. If you feel steady and balanced here, you can hold your hands here and step your knee in. If you prefer, you can bring hands to your hips or even down onto the mat to make the transition. So bring your right knee back and we'll meet all together with hands to the hips. And let's take it to the other side. So extend your left leg out long, press into the pinky toe edge so all 5 toes point toward the top edge of your mat, and then begin by taking your left hand either to the thigh or outer calf, as long as you're not landing right on the knee. Reach your right fingertips up and overhead. Big full breaths. Notice how your breath works with your physical form. I love in side bends, for me, this is like the most beautiful example because you can't help but notice as your breath moves through you how the physical form really expands. Go ahead and bring it all the way back to center. And then inhale all 10 fingers high. Circle your elbows back, reach your heart, lift it high. And then slide back toward neutral. So same options. Fold your palms together to Anjali. If you feel steady and balanced here, activate the belly. Step your left knee in. Otherwise, bring your hands to hips or right down to the earth to accomplish that. We'll all meet back together at tabletop. And then go ahead and float your knees. Tuck all 10 toes under behind you. Float your knees and reach your hips up high and back toward your first down dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. You can bend into one knee and then the other. A little bit of wiggle or movement in this first one. And then roll your back, round your way forward. Release all the way down toward the earth. And roll up onto your forearms for Sphinx. You're gonna take a little movement here as if you're dragging your elbows back towards the crests of your hips. So hopefully that will result in you finding a little bit more length in the front side of your body. Make sure your neck spine is really nice and long and your crown reaches right up to the sky. And then press the tops of your feet actively into the earth. A few more breaths. And exhale it down. Take a breath and slide your palms in underneath your shoulders. Squeeze your elbows tight towards your ribs. We'll transition right to a Bhujangasana variation. We're going to take it as a vinyasa. So on your inhale, roll your heart up. Remember to squeeze your elbows in. It can be really low, can be a little higher. It might even be like a supported upward dog on the tops of your thighs. You choose. And breathe down. Inhale to roll up. Exhale down. Inhale to roll up. Exhale down. 2 more at your own breath pace. In case you haven't already guessed where we're going as far as the physical posture today. I love back bends for working with this layer of wisdom, the Vijnana Maya Kosha, right? Tuning into what's really best for my body on any given day. Breathe all the way down, then tuck your toes under behind you. Float back through tabletop. Neutral spine. Still with your toes tucked, reach your hips up high and back. And then inhale your gaze forward, take a slow walk. Just one footprint, one step at a time, all the way up to the tippy top of your mat. And as you arrive, lift up halfway. So blocks are handy for this. Always kind of nice to have them lurking around the top edge of your mat just in case. So you can lift here to shins. You can lift up to your fingertips. And then exhale, pull your navel back a little bit deeper. Dive into your fold Uttanasana. Keep the navel lifting up for support in the low back. Swing your arms out wide and all the way up. Uttita Tadasana, breathe your palms together to heart center. And because I really love this spot as a place to check in with intention, with sankalpa, with purpose, then I invite you to pause, find your breath, scan your system, each of the layers. Ideally, when we're moving through an asana physical practice, we are having a whole body or a holistic experience. So we're touching on each of the layers. Move through physical form, notice any changes or shifts or anything that's brewing. Observe your breath. Observe mind, thoughts, emotions, the Manomaya Kosh. Observe inner wisdom, that the highest voice of you. So particularly as we work toward deepening back bends, really honoring when to push through and when to back off, equally or perhaps more important. And lastly, the Anandamaya Kosh, of course, that one's always there, right? But probably the least frequently tapped into it. Maybe there's one little part of you that can tune into its existence within you, the bliss. And then as you're ready with all of those layers of you, inhale to reach your arms up ecstatically. Bring your gaze toward the sky. Exhale, hinge forward, come all the way down to touch the mat or your blocks, Uttanasana. As you inhale, roll fingertips, blocks, or shins, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, root each knuckle, spread your fingers wide, step all the way back, plank pose, Palakasana. Rock your shoulders up above your wrists, and then either land your knees or keep them afloat, elbows just to your ribs, and then extend. So same option here, you can stay onto the tops of your thighs, or if you're feeling warm enough for it, perhaps press to the tops of your feet. Find lots of length in the front side of your body. And then roll up and back over your toes, Adho Mukha Svanasana. 3 big breaths. When there's places that you can pause in the practice, these are great spots to really scan your awareness, or notice if you use those open spaces as like a field for your mind to wander. A scan of your koshas is an awesome anchor for your mind. Bring your gaze forward to the top edge of your mat. Walk slowly, lunge, or even hop your way up. When you land, lift halfway. Exhale, fold down a little deeper with an active tummy. And then inhale, take your arms out wide. Come all the way up, breathe back to folded palms at your heart, Samastitihi. Pause for just a breath here. And right back into second round, we'll begin to add on some variations to our Surya A. Lift your gaze up to fingertips. Exhale to hinge forward. Inhale just to your halfway lift. And then exhale, lunge, or of course you can hop back. This time, I'd invite you to explore full Chaturanga from your plank, so keep your knees hovering if that's there. And then lengthen up to the tops of your feet. Roll up and over your toes, all the way back, downward facing dog. Take your right leg high, and then bend into your knee and swivel the front of your right hip open toward the right edge of your mat. So you can really let your right foot get heavy. Make sure your right shoulder is still doing some of the work. And then lift your gaze forward. Step just your right foot all the way up through. As always, you can help with your hand if you'd like, and I recommend grabbing both of your blocks here. As an option, you can cushion your left knee. Come on down to the floor. All right, so start to lean your weight forward as if heading toward Anjaneyasana, or that low crescent, but keep your hands rooted either to the earth or to blocks. And then rock your hips back and roll your toes up and off the floor. So a half Hanuman, Ardha Hanumanasana. Take a few rounds just like that. So sink way down low. Make sure your shoulders are also rolling back as you sink your hips. And then rock back, roll your toes high. If it's available, maybe fold forward. Allow your breath to be the captain, right? So breath layer leads the physical layer. We let our physical body lead us all the time, right? The rest of our layers, a lot of times, are just kind of following along for the ride. So it's kind of nice to let one of the other layers take the lead. Take one more round. And then go ahead and pour your weight down into your right foot. And this time, go ahead and take a lift, all 10 fingertips high, Anjaneyasana. And then circle your elbows back. Reach your 10 fingertips high. And then this time, go ahead and interlace your fingers behind you. Remember which pinky is on top. That's probably going to be your dominant side, because we'll switch it up the next time around. Press your knuckles down toward the earth, and as you do that, only as much as it is appropriate, sink your hips down low and simultaneously let your heart lift high. And then one last time, float your hips back toward neutral, reach your 10 fingertips high, and then breathe on down through your heart center. You can set your blocks to the side. You'll need them in just a moment. Float your back knee, step back. This is where you get the option of either moving through a vinyasa or resting right back to down dog. So 3 breaths to either move through that or pause at down dog. And then with your next inhale, reach your left leg nice and high. Bend into your knee. This time around, swivel the front of your left hip open. Let your left foot get really nice and heavy. And insist that your left shoulder stays part of the equation. It's still engaged, pressing active. 3, 2, 1. Bring your gaze forward. Step your left foot all the way up through. Land your right knee down. Of course, you can cushion. I like to keep my back toes tucked, but you can explore it with them untucked as well. Land your hands to your blocks. And before lifting up to our little baby crescent, take a few rocks back and forth. Remember, as you rock back toward that half Hanuman, your toes will lift so that you're resting onto your heel. And then you have the option to fold forward as well. You also have the option along this movement to pause and hold in any area that just it's feeling particularly juicy for you today. That's the wisdom, right? So I like to think that any offering a teacher gives you is always optional, because ultimately you're the only one residing in your own body, so you always get to choose. Take one last breath. And then go ahead and lift back toward neutral. Reach all 10 fingers high. First round of breath, circle your elbows back, reach your heart high. Inhale back toward Anjaneyasana. Maybe you can sink your hips a little lower. And then go ahead and breathe and interlace to your fingers. Remember which pinky was on top before, so you can go to the other side. It will probably feel a little weird. And then start to press your knuckles back if it's safe. At the same time, sink your hips low. Continue to lift your heart high. And then go ahead and lift back toward neutral. Release your hands. Reach all 10 fingertips up. Breathe all the way down through your heart. Frame your front foot, float your back knee, and go ahead and step back. So remember, you have the option here, down dog or move through your vinyasa. 3 breaths, whichever choice. And then go ahead and land your knees down to the mat. As an option on this one, you can take your blocks to the lowest setting to rest your elbows onto, and then you'll come toward prayer hands. Alternatively, you can also come to the same configuration right down to the mat. So feel it out in your body. Your hips will stay high, stacked above your knees. So it's got a similar feel to child's pose, except that the hips will stay high. So it's going to be quite a bit more engaged and active. So bring your palms together and then dive your head down between your elbows. Rest your third eye point, or perhaps your chin. You can bring your thumbs back to the base of your neck and let your heart sink nice and low, Anahatasana. Good spot to dive into your inner world and observe. If you're not feeling much sensation here, perhaps explore the block option. Will be a few more breaths. And then go ahead and extend your arms long. Float from the back side of your heart. Walk up onto your hands. If you're with blocks, set them off to the side. And then go ahead and tuck your toes. Reach your hips high and back. Downward facing dog. Round your back, roll your weight forward, and lower yourself slowly and with control all the way down to the mat. Great spot to have your strap handy as a little extension for your arm. And roll up onto your forearms or elbows once again. We're going to add on an additional piece this time around. So you can bend into your left knee. Reach back and bind almost like a half bow here, except you're resting on your right elbow. So you can hold here at the foot or ankles. This is where the strap comes in handy, right? So it can be here, right? If you're at your foot or ankle and you feel like you need a little more sensation for your physical form, start to draw your heel down towards your outer hip, or perhaps even swivel your fingertips around toward the front edge of your mat for Ardha Bekasana. Last variation option is to press your right palm into the earth and float your right elbow. Remember to breathe. We need our pranamaya koshas there to support the body. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And without slingshotting, release your left leg all the way back behind you. Walk back into your elbows. Take a breath here at Sphinx. You can relocate your strap if you know you would like to have it for the other side. Lift to the front side of your body. And then go ahead and bend into your right knee. Stay landed onto your left elbow initially. Reach back, bind your ankle or the top of your foot. You can hold here or with your strap as in a half bow. If you feel like you need more sensation, start to drag your heel down toward your outer right hip. Your elbow will lift skyward. Perhaps swivel your fingertips right around to the front edge of the mat. And last option, ground each of your knuckles and perhaps lengthen your left arm. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very slowly release. Land both elbows back down to the earth. Drag them back toward the crest of your hips. Find length in the front side of your body. And then exhale all the way down. Slide your elbows in underneath your shoulders. Tuck your toes. If you'd like, you can take a little reverse push-up here or press back through tabletop. So either through table or right up to plank, reverse push-up. We'll all meet together at downward facing dog. Then lift your gaze forward, walk, lunge, or hop your way all the way up. Fold it forward. Lift it up halfway to fingertips or shins. And then exhale all the way down. With a strong active belly, reach your wingspan wide. Come on up, Utthita Tadasana. Breathe your hands together to your heart. Let's go right into our Surya B Variation. So touch your toes together. Big toes, spread the rest of your toes out wide. Sink way down deep to a seat. And reach your fingertips up, little roll of your pelvis in, Utkatasana. Exhale to fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. And then go ahead and ground your palms. If you've had enough vinyasa for today, remember you always have the option to lift right back to down dog, either with knees hovering or afloat. Move through vinyasa if you wish. And all the way back. Bring your gaze forward, step your right foot up through. Set up your foundation for warrior one. So you can spin your back heel down. We won't be taking a traditional Surya B, so we'll start right off with some variations. But first, set up for warrior one. Press to pinky toe edge with your heel landed at the back. A little bit of space from heel to heel. Line your knee up above your ankle and rise. And then interlace your fingers behind you. Same action of pressing your knuckles down toward your back thigh. As you do that, lengthen your front leg as if toward Tadasana, but we're going to keep it with a lifted heart. So think Tadasana in the lower body, and then sink back into your front knee, reach your fingertips high, Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale, lengthen your front leg, press your knuckles to the earth, reach your heart high. And then sink on down into your front knee, Vira 1. Last one. And then go ahead and sink down, reach your hands high. Breathe both hands down through your heart. Swivel up to the tippy toes of your back foot, and then either blocks are always handy, so you can come to blocks, or if it's comfortable for you, reach right down to the earth. Keep your back knee super engaged and lifting upward, and sink your hips lower. You can also do this with your knee down onto the earth. Sink your hips a little lower. It's kind of like psoas drops for those that are familiar, but we have the hands grounded. Last one, sink the hips a little lower. And then go ahead and land your knee down to the earth. Cushion it if you'd like. Bend into your left knee. Reach back with your left hand. So all the same options, very similar to the shape we just saw down on the ground, the half frog. If you feel like you need more, you can start to drag your heel in toward your outer hip. You can spin your fingertips around toward the front of the mat. You can sink your hips a little lower. And then mindfully release. All the way back, tuck your toes under. Step it right back. Here's your option to vinyasa or right to downward facing dog. We're almost there, everyone. We're in the home stretch. Coming back, downward facing dog. This time, bring your gaze forward, step your left foot up through, set up your warrior one foundation. So spin your back heel down, press into the outer blade of your back foot, and rise, warrior one. So you want to keep an active pull forward of your right hip, an active pull back of your left hip. And then go ahead and interlace your fingers behind you. Press down toward your back thigh as you do that. Lengthen your front leg. Continue to rise through your heart. And then exhale, sink into your front knee, reach 10 fingertips high. You can take this as quickly or as slowly as you'd like. Check in that you're alternating the interlacing of your fingers. Last one. And then go ahead and breathe both hands down. Grab your blocks or bring your hands right to the floor. Spin to the tips of your toes behind you. Remember to keep the underside of your back knee really active, or of course you can take this down onto your knee. Sink your hips down or forward if you have your knee landed. Sink your hips down, just like psoas drops. Keep the underside of the knee active. Last one, sink your hips down. And then go ahead and land your back knee down to the earth. And then as you're steady, root into your left hand. bend into your right knee and reach back. So you can bind to the top of your right foot. If you want a little bit more sensation in that physical layer, drag your right heel toward outer right hip. Perhaps spin your fingertips around to the front. Remember, you can sink a little bit lower into your front hip or knee. Remember to breathe. And then slowly lift back. Remember to ease your right toes down and onto the earth. Float your right knee. This time, step directly back into down dog. And then bring your gaze forward, walk, lunge, or hop all the way up to the tippy top of the mat. Inhale as you land just halfway. Exhale to fold. And then sink your sits bones way down low. We're going to bookend that Surya B, Utkatasana. Swivel the pelvis in, bring your gaze high, and then land up. Samastitihi, fold your hands to your heart. All right, so make sure you have your strap or tie nearby and handy. Reach your right fingertips up really nice and high. And then take your right palm down between your shoulders, and with your left hand, press your right elbow back in space. Back in space. Make sure your heart and your gaze, your chest stays lifted. So notice if there's a little bit of rounding going on, you really want to look for a lifting, enlivening effect, so you can call on your breath. If your body feels like not quite as alive and awakened, call on your breath. You have other parts of you, right? Call on your mind, your emotions for alertness, awareness. Go ahead and release. Come all the way down. Tadasana. And then inhale, reach your left fingertips way up high. Again, land your palm down between your shoulder blades for the back side of your heart. This time your right hand will press into the underside of your upper arm to draw your elbow back. Draw your elbow back. So it's an active press back in space. Remember to stay lifted. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and release that all the way down to Tadasana. Okay, so we've arrived to the main event. What I'd like to do is play with you all with the pose Natarajasana, the pose dedicated to Nataraj, or the dancing form or incarnation or avatar of Shiva. And as I said, the back bends are really beautiful invitations to not only have a real intensity to the physical experience of your practice, but also it really calls on you to have a very strong grasp on your pranamaya layer, your breath layer. As you lift way back, there's this kind of stretching and expansion of the lungs. So you really have to focus on maintaining an even breath. Of course, beautiful for the mind, beautiful heart lifting, heart expanding impact. And also, this is why I was saying I really love back bends for this. It gives us an opportunity to tap in deeply to Vijnanamaya Kosha, our deepest wisdom. So I invite you all as we move into this to listen very closely to what is truly the best for you today, because it might not be the same as you practiced yesterday, and it's for sure not the same as what you'll feel tomorrow. So back off or move forward exactly as much as you need. Okay, so take both ends of your strap in either hand. We'll start with the right foot as base. So bring your strap down to the earth and step your left toes on top of the strap, the flat part of the strap. And then you're gonna swap hands. So what happens is a little crisscross is created across the top of your foot. And so once you have that bound in opposite hands, step your right foot through, and then you're gonna take like one sweeping movement. It's gonna be a little bit quick so that you can maintain or hold up the slack on your strap. Press into all edges of your right foot, bend into your left knee, and lift your elbows skyward. So all of that kind of happens simultaneously. As you feel steady, you can bring both tails of the strap together, stack your fists. Here we go. This is where you use your discernment and your wisdom. You might stay stay here with your knee quite low. You might work to walk your fists back on the strap. You might work to lift your heart or lift your elbows. Work to swing your left knee inward toward midline if possible. Notice if it wants to wing out wide. You might be working on finding really smooth and steady breath. Activate your right side quadricep. Get really rooted, strong, and grounded. So all layers of you working hard. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release. Come on back down. Shake your foot out of the bind and settle in at Tadasana. This little pause in between the sandhi. Really almost more important than the pose, the asana itself. Time to observe. And then let's go ahead and reset for the opposite side. So your left foot will be based this time around. Make sure that you have either end of the strap, once again, in either hand. This time your right foot will step onto the flat of your strap. The toes can be out. Then crisscross. So there's a little cross around the top of your foot. This helps you stay bound. Once you're there, step through with your left foot. That becomes the base. So I'm going to show this. Again, there's an action. It's like 3 or 4 things happening simultaneously. So as you step forward, you press into the whole weight of your left foot. At the same time, bend into your right knee, float your right foot, and lift your elbows skyward. All of that happening at the same time. So you can stay here, maybe even binding with the hands like shoulders width apart. You can stack your fists and stay with your right knee low. You have all the options. Yoga practice is nothing but discernment, right? Maybe you walk your fists back and back and back. Maybe you lift your heart and lengthen your arms. Maybe you strengthen your left side leg. Maybe you strengthen your breath. Keep your eyes on an unmoving point. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come down mindfully. Mindfully. You can set your strap off to the side. I know I can't see you, but I can just sense that you're doing beautiful work there. And then go ahead and take one big step back toward the back edge of your mat. It doesn't matter which foot you step back, we'll be taking symmetrical movement, so whichever way you can best watch what's happening. And then start to bend deep into right leg and then left. And kind of a flowing skandasana. Take a few rounds with the trunk nice and high, so we're not forcing the body directly into a forward fold after those really intense back bends. However, you can certainly bend a little bit deeper down while keeping the trunk high from side to side. And then once you feel adequately kind of neutralized, maybe you want to bring your hands down to the earth or down onto blocks. And then go ahead and come toward neutral. Spin all 10 toes to point toward the long edge of your mat, and go ahead and take a deep fold. Prasarita Padottanasana. You can land into the palms with your fingertips, even with your tips of your toes. Maybe you want your blocks here. Maybe you rest all the way down to the crown of your head if you'd like. And because we've asked a lot of the shoulder joint in today's practice, go ahead and walk both hands to the outside of your right leg and then drop your upper body down. Get a nice generous pull on the left side shoulder into the left side ribs and lungs. Let your head drop heavy. Walk all the way through center and on over to the opposite side. Both hands to the outside edge of your left leg. Drop your head. Weight of your trunk down low. Breathe into right side lungs and rib. And And then walk it back towards center. Heel toe step your feet in toward midline, but then leave your heels in and toes out for Malasana. Sink your sits bones nice and low. So we're coming down toward the earth or settling down. So if you want to take a less active variation, you can bring the block in below your sits bones. Allow your upper arms to drag the thigh bones back. Press your palms together for Anjali and lift your heart. And then go ahead and remove the block out from underneath you. Help guide your sits bones toward the earth. You can extend your legs out long toward the front. And take a soft fold. So think Paschimottanasana, but like a little bit less active. We're gonna allow ourselves to counter or neutralize, but in a soft way. That's discernment and wisdom. So without force. Allow your head to be heavy. And then inhale with a rounded back, slow lift. Keep your left leg long. Bend into your right knee and bring the foot across the top of your left thigh. You can squeeze your knee here. You can turn your gaze over your right shoulder behind you, or if you want a deeper twist to counter, you can bring your left elbow right on across to the outside of your right thigh. Make sure your trunk stays nice and tall. And then draw it back towards center. Give that right knee one last squeeze. And then lengthen out. Let's come to the opposite side. So left knee bends, cross the foot over the right thigh, and squeeze your left knee tight. You can stay right here if you'd like. You can continue to hug your left knee and spin your heart back. You can also take your right elbow to the outside of your left thigh. Spin or twist a little or a lot. Choose what's most nurturing for your practice. And then go ahead and bring it all the way back towards center. Untangle your legs, get yourself set up for just a minute or two of pranayama practice. So perhaps you'd like to elevate your hips. You can take a blanket or your bolster. And let's tune into Nadi Shodhana, our alternate nostril breath, to finish this practice with a lot of balance, groundedness, centeredness. So with your right hand, find Vishnu Mudra. You can drop your peace fingers to the base of your thumb or rest your peace fingers to your third eye point. Breathe in through both nostrils and out through both nostrils. And then block your left nostril and inhale only through the right. 3, 2, 1. Block your right nostril to open your left. Exhale just through your left. 3, 2, 1. Inhale through your left that's already open. 3, 2, 1. Block your left nostril. Open your right nostril to exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through your already open right nostril. Block your right, open your left, exhale. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. The next time you go to inhale through your left nostril, go ahead and release the mudra. Come down toward a seat. Make sure you are comfortable and that you have all that you need. You have an option to integrate from this practice in seated meditation. In that case, you can stay exactly where you are. Or you can come down toward Shavasana for those that would like. And as you land in your space for observation, whether seated or all the way down to the earth, I hope you find a peace within you that finds bliss in the integration of all of these parts of you. So there is something innately blissful in remembering our unique wholeness and how multifaceted, multidimensional our being truly is. Again, you might notice the mat, the feeling of the mat beneath your body, or if you're wrapped in any blankets or socks or layers, the feeling of the material on your skin. You might watch your breath as a witness rising and falling without force or effort. Allow it to be natural and organic. If you notice thoughts and emotions are active, I offer you a simple mantra of Soham. I am that. This mantra, or the practice of mantra in general, is very soothing and calming for Manomaya Kosh. So allow the mind to circle in on Soham as your breath moves. I am that. Soham. And in this space, notice any messages from your higher or your highest intelligence, that place of discernment where there is power in judgment and self-knowledge, a true knowing of what is right for you, where you can move through postures or move through life mindfully rather than reactively. You can be proactive. You can be interactive. And lastly, to our usually most underdeveloped layer, this thinnest veil between our ordinary awareness and our highest self, the Ananda Maya. This is the place from where our heart opens up toward the concept of unity. So in these final moments, I invite you to consider who or what you practice for. Because when we heal and do self-care, we're not only caring for ourselves, but we're caring for all of those around us. And in some spiritual traditions, it is also said that we are doing healing work for the 7 past generations and the 7 future generations. This is seva, this selfless work that connects us into our bliss form. Who or what am I practicing for? For who or for what do I strive to be the best, most integrated version of myself? Take a last few moments here in stillness and in quiet. And as you're ready, begin to deepen the movements of your breath so that upward lifting, energizing breath, the intake of the breath, might allow for some lightness in your body that can trickle toward your fingers and your toes. Whether you're seated in meditation or down on the earth in Shavasana. You can start to rock, circle, or roll your head from side to side. If you're all the way down to the earth, as you're ready, perhaps take a big full body stretch and then roll over onto your favorite side for several breaths. And then press yourself up toward a last seat where we can come to seal the practice together. And as you land, bring your hands to join one another for Anjali. Bring the seam between your thumbs to your heart, to your sternum. Find a little bit of space between your palms, that place where we hold all layers, all aspects of ourself, of one another, and the whole realm of possibility. And I thank you each for joining this practice today. Have a beautiful remainder of your day ahead. Namaste.